Before we begin this Thursday evening address, if you're not already subscribed to this YouTube channel, go ahead and hit the subscribe button now, along with the bell icon so you can be notified when a new video drops. If you're already subscribed, check and make sure that YouTube hasn't tried to unsubscribe you. Seems every week I get a few people telling me they were unsubscribed without their permission. And finally, be sure to give the video a like. The white supremacists hate that. Now, that said, a little over a month ago, around June 11th, I dropped a video essay talking about stalling tactics and distractions. This is when the Democrats were running around with their kente cloth, pretending that they were showing solidarity with black people because the uprising was scaring them as it moved closer to Capitol Hill. And at that time, out of the blue, you had the California Assembly pass what the white media called a reparations bill, when it was no reparations bill at all. It was simply a bill that was calling for a task force to study the idea of reparations, whether or not anything like that could be done. That's all it was. It was a proposal for a task force, but the white media called that a reparations bill. Ain't nobody getting paid. Nobody's getting anything out of it. Nobody talked to the black grassroots, and that was deliberate. This is all political theater meant to try to tell the masses, oh, this is what you can say to black people when they claim that they're owed reparations. You can say, oh, that's already been done. We read about it in the paper. We read about it online. And of course, now, this week, we've had yet another of the exact same fraud, North Carolina, Asheville City to be exact. Shout out to Tariq for posting this on his Twitter and bringing this to people's attention. They have now had their city council unanimously approve a reparations resolution. Now, they're not actually doing anything. It's just a resolution. But the point is that I'm trying to make, these people had not come and talk to us. And when you look at both the California and the Asheville, North Carolina proposals, the white media is very quick to point out that this resolution does not mandate direct cash payments to descendants of slaves or 40 acres and a mule. Instead, the city plans to make investments in areas where black residents face disparities. Doesn't that sound like the exact same garbage we hear every year? You know, normally they call that economic development, one of those empty terms that's so vague, so indistinct, it could mean anything, though it usually means absolutely nothing at all, certainly nothing good for us. And this is what they're doing, and I told you about this. I warned you about this. I told you this is exactly what they would do. They would take the same old phony, feeble, oh, we got some ideas about how to invest in the black community. We need some proposals on that. And the same thing they do all the time, like Kamala Harris's Lift Act. And they would say, well, this is reparations. You know, black people might get a few pennies out of it. This is reparations. I told you they would do this. Though I do think it bears noting that without a single election being held, without having to put a single politician in office, the black grassroots has these clowns talking about reparations. Granted, they're phony as hell about it, but the point is that they feel forced to do so. You see what has happened merely because of the pressure that's been put on them without any sort of electoral or political gains. For all the morons out there who have spent the last decade telling me, man, ain't nobody even going to be talking about reparations. Man, they ain't actually going to say nothing about it. Oh, sure they would. If you put enough pressure on the bastards, put their backs to the wall, make them feel the heat, sure they would. But we have to make it very clear. We define what constitutes reparations, not the white media and not any hand-picked black bootlicks. See this phony talk about these reparations proposals and resolutions, and we'll put together a study group, no doubt at the library, I'll bet. What this is all meant to do is to test our resolve. See, white supremacy is nothing if not sophisticated. They understand that if they can use weasel words just to try us to see, hey, are they going to fall for it? Okay, they didn't fall for it the first time. Will they fall for it the second or third time? Okay, they didn't fall for it then. How about the sixth or seventh time, or the eighth or ninth time? They don't just do it once and then walk away and go, okay, I guess they didn't fall for it. They're like, no, we're going to keep at this and see how long it takes before these guys start to show any cracks in their resolve. They are desperately trying to avoid the issue of cash payouts. Long as they stick to the phony baloney, well, some minority programs and make investments in areas where black residents face disparities. What the hell does that even mean? It means nothing. But that's the kind of talk that they like, precisely because it means nothing. They figure if they can just spout that gibberish, they can then declare that the money will go to minorities, etc. If we accept that. If we accept that, then here comes the okey doke. Here comes the pivot. See, they can't do the $5 Indian trick with us. Oh, they might attempt some $5 Negroes, a couple of white folks claiming, oh, my great-great-great-great-grandpappy on my mother's side claimed that they were slaves. They'll be claiming it falsely, of course, but figuring, who's going to check that out? This is the reason why we have to be the one to set the terms of what constitutes reparations and who qualifies. We can't let the white media do it. We can't let them have any dumb Negroes who they paid to stand in front of the cameras and say, I will speak for all black people, because if you met one of us, you've met us all. And if one black person says something, this is what every black person agrees with. We're not going to let them pull the black monolith game with us. But these proposals, which are empty promises, not even promises, just empty blather, don't think for a moment that this is genuine. It's not. It's a media ploy, a propaganda campaign. We made it clear that the black vote demands reparations. If you want us to turn out, we've also made it clear what will happen if the black community decides en masse to abandon the ballot box. They have seen this summer, the only thing hotter than the temperature has been these streets. They have seen what the result will be. And this is the white supremacist attempting to con us by claiming that they've done what we said when in fact they've done nothing at all. I warned you about this, that they would take the same old shop-worn minority programs. We're going to do some economic development, some investments in the inner city. They do that. They make a couple of empty speeches about that. They go on the floor of their state legislature or their city hall and they'll talk about that. Maybe there'll be a couple of contracts or something, or maybe some Negroes will have subcontracting capability with some of these city contracts. And then now, instead of them just saying that this constitutes economic development, now they're saying this is reparations. They're saying that, not us. And after that, if we let them get away with this con, they'll say that, now, well, buddy, we paid for the greatest crime in human history, buddy. We already did some reparations, buddy. Don't know if you heard. Didn't you read online? From the websites that we own. We already did reparations. We did some programs. And we hear that a couple of Negroes got some city contracts. Of course, they work for white companies that we own, so we got the money. Well, we already did reparations, buddy, so that's already done. Done deal. We already did it. So now we're giving ourselves permission to go ahead and dismiss that anymore. No more reparations claims, buddy. That's what they're hoping to set up. That's what they're attempting to set up here. The white media is going to help them try to stage this political theater so they can bestow forgiveness on themselves for slavery, just like the police. Hey, aren't the police going to look into all these killings of black people? Well, we did, buddy. We did a thorough investigation, and we found that we didn't kill you niggers wrongly, so we already did an investigation. This is why whenever you see the white media making one of these phony stories about reparations, they have to make sure that they have some Negroes standing out in front for the cameras as their feeble attempt to give this fraud legitimacy. White supremacy believes in controlling both sides of the argument. They have one side screaming against reparations, which is the position of established white power, but of course, there will always be those who are going to be dissidents. There will always be those who are contrarians. So that being the case, you have to have some form of controlled opposition to contain them. Give them somebody who they can root for. So you go ahead and you have this other side who pretends to be for reparations. But when you ask them what their idea of reparations is, or to give specifics and details about their position, well, what you hear is it doesn't have to be cash. In fact, it doesn't really have to be anything. Or you get a Jonathan Capehart saying that what black people really want are hugs. That's exactly what you expect a black LGBT who is looking for a white zaddy to say. You expect him to say, oh, I don't need a check. Just give me a white man who'll hug me. That's enough for me. This is what we get. This is what's supposed to be constituting a pro-reparations constituency. This is supposed to be what the pro-reparations advocates are supposed to be, right? Just pushing the same old minority programs, which will, of course, will go to the same old cast of characters, the usual suspects. Minorities, which of course means white women and non-blacks. That's what minorities means. Because it never means black people, especially not those of us whose ancestry goes back to the killing fields of the American South. If you're a descendant of American slaves, if you're a foundational black American, if you're a survivor of slavery in America, whatever title you want to use, if your bloodline goes back to the American South plantations, that's not who gets anything, and that's deliberate. Now, this Asheville City Council, they're presiding over a town that is 83% white and only 12% black. So you have an entirely white organization declaring that they're going to determine what constitutes reparations. And of course, it won't be cash. And it's not going to be 40 acres and a mule. In other words, it's not going to be anything tangible. If it's not money, if it's not land, it ain't tangible. Instead, they use weasel words. They're going to be forming policy. In other words, empty words. And programs. That means some white people who are going to be presiding over how whatever money is allocated is going to be given to non-blacks and white women. You're going to have a program that will establish the creation of generational wealth and address reparations due in the black community. Address it, yeah, but you're not going to be solving it. You're just going to be addressing it. By the way, look at the wording that they use. CNN, they might as well be saying, hey, you guys in the black media, you new voices of black media, yeah, Jason and Tariq and Professor Truth, you guys, we hear what you said, generational wealth. You've only heard the black media say that. You ain't heard Roly Poly. You ain't heard Joy Jackass Reed. You ain't heard Ta-Nehisi Coates, and you ain't heard the A-Dunce crowd talking about generational wealth. Only the black media has talked like that. So you got the white media attempting to give this low-key rebuttal of what we've said. Oh, because we're going to be having this dealing with generational wealth. Oh, we get it. We understand. You guys understand that you've been impoverished generationally, so you're addressing the generational impoverishment of your people. So we're going to sit here and say that this is about generational wealth. You're supposed to hear that phrase and your heart's supposed to go pitter-pat, and you're supposed to say, oh, well, these white folks and these white folks up there in Asheville, they must be on the level. When the truth of the matter is they've already told you, ain't going to be no cash, ain't going to be no land. Hell, you're not even going to get a mule out of it, not even livestock. In other words, nothing tangible. They already said that. So if they say you're not going to get money, you're not going to get land, you're not going to get any sort of tangible assets, then what the hell are you going to be doing in the form of generational wealth? Generational wealth does not take the form of racial goodwill. It takes the form of tangibles. And they've already told you, ain't going to be no tangibles. So they've already tipped their hand. This is a con game. I sincerely hope you understand the white media pushing this. They know exactly the lie that they're pushing. That's the entire idea. Some of you might lose your resolve and go, oh man, these people didn't just do the right thing off top, so ain't never go. You know, the weak-willed and weak-minded, you ain't built for this. Get the hell away from me. But for the rest of you who understand exactly that this is not going to be a sprint, it's going to be a marathon, just understand, here it is. They're testing us to see if we're going to go for it. You need to recognize controlled opposition when you see it. When you look at that congressional fraud that took place last year, where you had Ta-Nehisi Chokes and Danny Blubber and a bunch of other bootlick Negroes who went to Capitol Hill, and all of them testified that reparations doesn't have to be cash. Oh, they had a different line of rhetoric for a lot of things, but when it came time to talk about exactly what form should reparations take, it doesn't have to be cash. It does not have to be cash. They were all in agreement. Money, it doesn't have to be money. Oh, definitely not money. No, it doesn't have to be money at all. Yeah, that's how you know somebody put the battery in their back to say that garbage. Somebody put those words in their mouths. When you've been sitting here as a Negro like Ta-Nehisi Chokes, depending on white people to give you jobs writing for The Atlantic, or to give you jobs writing for this or that white publication or website, what happens is you learn real quick that Chris Hayes wouldn't take too well to it if you start saying that black folks are supposed to be getting a check. Those good white folks at MSNBC and those white folks at these white think tanks who invite him to bloviate at their little luncheons and their little get-togethers, they wouldn't appreciate it if he started saying, go ahead and take some money out of these folk. They wouldn't appreciate that, so he understands. I can't say anything that threatens these white people who I depend upon for my paycheck. And then you have a bunch of other Negroes who the white media gives online space and newspaper room to say that it should not be cash. You need to understand that this is an organized white media propaganda offensive here. These people are not just speaking for themselves. They've been given a line to say. They've been told what it is that they're supposed to say. Because you know clowns like Ta-Nehisi Chokes, you know that these fools who hang around these left-wing white supremacists calling themselves liberals, what they get given is the line about, well, these people, we can't be fringe about it, you know, that just wouldn't be feasible. The Bernie Sanders line, it wouldn't be feasible, that wouldn't be feasible. Or what they tell them is, well, you know, cash as it stands is not the best way to handle this. What black people really need is community initiatives, preferably those that white people get the money and black people will just get whatever white people. You see, this has to be very carefully done. And look, decades, if not centuries of generational impoverishment have made it where black people are not quite as savvy about these things. And don't worry, you've got your good white liberal buddies and they're going to help you out. Just don't be demanding any money. That would be irresponsible. We have to make sure that these irresponsible black voices, you know, like the black media, those angry guys online, we got to make sure that those irresponsible voices don't carry the issue because after all, you could set race relations back hundreds of years. Never mind the fact that race relations haven't moved one damn inch since 1619. Race relations can only go forward because they've been standing still for the better part of 500 years. But the Ta-Nehisi Chokes and those other Negroes you saw, and a lot of them who you haven't seen, they already know their white buddies have told them. This is the responsible position. Responsible meaning this is how you don't endanger the money that MSNBC or CNN gives you to appear on one of their broadcast segments. And if you want them to ever go ahead and publicize your next empty, pathetic screed calling itself a book, if you want to continue to be a marquee Negro, well, you better not say anything that gives us heartburn. You better make sure you stay away from that cash thing. You better not be talking like those black voices online, the black media. You better not be talking like them. That's not responsible. Responsible, of course, being a euphemism for obedient. See, this is why you got to watch them old Negroes, as TBA says. You got to watch them old Negroes who pride themselves on being able to get on television basically at will. They pride themselves on this or that white media outlet having them on. They're friends with this or that white member of Congress who have done so much for black people, by the way. These old Negroes who gladly carry water for the left wing of white supremacy, who gladly go ahead and pitch all of their lies at us. Because that's their job. And when it comes to reparations, we see the same thing today. They're using familiar faces and voices to push the lies meant to con us into accepting a white supremacist trick bag. You know, when the Jews demanded reparations, they demanded money. And in 1948, they made it clear that they demanded the official recognition of land, albeit taken, but land nonetheless. They said, we went ahead and took some land from these Arabs over here, and we demand that you recognize it. We're going to need money, we're going to need some land. You see, they didn't go for that Asheville Dodge. They didn't go for that little crock of garbage that they're trying in North Carolina. They didn't go for that. What they said was, no, we need tangibles. We need money and we need land. That's what they said. And the same thing for the Native Americans. We need money and we need land. So for all you slowwits out there talking that dumb crap about how money is worthless, the Negroes who talk like that, they're usually the ones who don't have any money and wouldn't know what to do with it if they did. These people are clowns. That's why we don't listen to them. Though they are dangerous nonetheless because they are exactly the kind of useful idiots, eager idiots, who all the white media knows. All they got to do is give one of these slow wits a pat on the head, give them a couple of compliments, and like an obedient little dog, their tails will start wagging and their tongues will start panting and they'll be following massa around. They already know that, so we got to make sure that these idiots do not carry the day. That's going to depend on all of us putting the arm on them, though. Now, if you want an example of exactly what kind of garbage you can expect to see from an allegedly black quarter, just take, for example, a case study, the Philadelphia Tribune, which I'm supposed to believe is a black news website. These guys took it upon themselves to repeat the asinine lie about how people should listen to their idiotic rantings about reparations. That's their little headline. Apparently, these guys think to themselves that there's some sort of authorities. In fact, you shouldn't even talk about reparations until you hear what they have to say. And what do they say? Well, their article, as you would expect, it starts off more or less sensibly, actually less. But then they jump into the middle of Lake Stupid and pivot to the white supremacist line that you know that this is the whole reason why they wrote this garbage. They say, money? We don't want your stinking money. First of all, it's not their money, it's our money. Our blood, sweat, and tears built this country's wealth. That is stolen money that they've got, and we're here to collect. Secondly, I'm not about to have a bunch of broke, ignorant civil rights retreads who have been dead wrong for 60 plus years call themselves speaking for me. We don't want your stinking money. Speak for yourself, stupid. I'll take your share. White power loves to handpick some bootlicking scumbag, put them in front of the cameras, or give them some website space and claim that they're a black leader. And of course, this phony baloney head Negro in charge doesn't want anything that would require white supremacy to give up any of its power. These black leaders, they just do the same old, let's not rock the boat. We need some indistinct programs and some unspecified initiatives and other indistinct, unspecific gibberish. And then the white media claims, hey, you see this black preacher, this black talking head over here? Why, we should do what these guys have said. Why, the black community has spoken. Har, har, har. That's the con that they pull. You go ahead and you put one of your handpicked Negroes out there, tell him what to say, he says it, then you say, why, we have to do what our little tool, our little bootlick, this independent black leader has said. Meanwhile, you got black folks in the streets raising hell. It's like, well, too extreme. These guys are too fringe. Can't do that. They scare us. Especially with all that talk about money. That scares the hell out of us. White supremacy believes in controlling both sides of the conversation. Neely Fuller taught you that. They attempt to define the terms of the discussion. But of course they know they can't do it themselves, so they get some black bootlick to spout their gibberish for them, or to write their lies for them, and their black bootlick says, why, this is what reparations ought to be, some bought and paid for shill who repeats what the white supremacy told him to say. And then this person claims they speak for us all. What else would you call it when some idiot who you never heard of decides that they're going to put out an article saying, we don't want your stinking money? This is supposed to be a repudiation of the black media. That's what this garbage is, and they're not alone. This Philadelphia Tribune goes on to show that if their moronic ideas and proposals for reparations ever came to pass, then it would be nothing more than a mass vow of poverty. They actually had the nerve to write that cash has no intrinsic value. They actually wrote that. Cash has no intrinsic value. Gee, I wonder what these guys pay their bills with then. Cash has no intrinsic value. The only person who said that was a broke, dumb Negro. That's the only person who ever said that. Any black empowerment plan of a necessity requires that we have an economy, and unless you intend to go back to some barter system, that will mean cash. Banks don't take produce or cattle, or even gold bars. Banks only accept cash. But these fools say that cash has no intrinsic value. Now, they try to use the word intrinsic as a way of getting around saying that you don't need no money. We can just get by on hopes and dreams. Ain't that old stuff that you've had the black baby boomers saying since forever? Oh, I gave my children a good mind and a good heart. Didn't give them no valuables. Didn't give them any sort of tangibles. Didn't give them anything that would sustain them in a world that runs on money. But I gave him all of this intangible stuff, and God will provide, and blah, blah, blah. Cash has no intrinsic value. That's weasel words. Last time I checked, people have been using some form of currency or coinage for thousands of years. And they've been using it to get things that do have intrinsic value. These idiots don't even know the basis of an economy, and yet they're going to be talking about black people being economically self-sufficient. You can't teach what you're too stupid to learn. Oh, if you think that cash has no intrinsic value, if you're one of these dumb Negroes who thinks that this kind of stupid talk sounds slick, please tell me something. How do you intend to build schools or businesses or pay people for their labor without cash? How do you intend to do that? I mean, if you're going to be starting this newly reinvigorated black community without cash on the barrelhead, then please explain to me how you intend to perpetuate it without that. Because you must be looking for some sort of alternative system. If you're beginning empty-handed, that means you're going to continue to stay empty-handed. But clearly the Philadelphia Tribune understood just how asinine their ranting sounds. So what they did was they decided that taking this stupid line of rhetoric, they would try to hide behind a veil of false piety, because that usually works with black folks. Do some idiotic Bible quotes to try to help black people feel better about being cowardly in the face of white supremacist aggression. That trick never fails. So having told black people that you don't need the very thing that you need most, which is cash, they try to make it sound like it's pious and honorable. And we're coming from a moral standpoint. Why, cash reparations, that would be nothing more than blood money. Why, you're basically bribing me for the blood of my... You can't put a price tag on the blood of my ancestors. Stupid blood money is what the white supremacists got for enslaving and oppressing us. Blood money is what you receive when you've done a dirty deed. That's what blood money is. They don't even know what the hell words they're using. Words have meanings, but not to the Philadelphia Tribune. Blood money is what a white supremacist or some other form of criminal receives when they've done some sort of dirty deed, some sort of crime. That's what blood money is. I think these idiots, you have a loved one who dies as the result of corporate malfeasance. These guys be the first ones saying, why, you can't be demanding that they pay you millions of dollars because this company dumps chemicals in the drinking water. Why, that would be blood money. No amount of money can compensate you for the loss of your loved one. You see, this is a pathetic attempt to carry the white supremacist line by default. This is a slick way of slipping that you don't need cash. It shouldn't be. In fact, you should feel guilty about demanding cash reparations. You should feel guilty about that. How dare you? You should be ashamed. We're going to shame you guys out of that cash reparations demand. You should be ashamed. Why, the blood of your ancestors, there's no way in the world that you can put a price tag on that. Doesn't this sound like it came from some sort of white think tank or some white political strategist? Doesn't it sound like it came from them? Yeah, the Philadelphia Tribune goes on to say that our ancestors never said that it was okay to enslave and violate them for generations so long as their descendants were compensated. That's what they say. This is what they think. They think that this counts as some sort of valid or intelligent argument. In fact, I'll give you the whole dumb quote right now. I certainly hope you don't think our ancestors who were dragged kicking, screaming, and fighting onto that Portuguese slave ship docked on the shores of Angola in 1619 said to their devilish pale-faced captors, I willingly give my permission to you to kidnap, shackle, enslave, dehumanize, buy, sell, rape, sodomize, whip, torture, amputate, and lynch me and my children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren, and so forth for 400 years, and I also also willingly give my permission to you to strip me and my generational offspring of our land, language, religion, and culture during those 400 years. You can do all that as long as you give some of those descendants some cash in 2019. Stupid, nobody ever gives permission to be mistreated. Nobody ever gives permission to be oppressed. So that's a false argument. Nobody ever says that. Nobody ever says you can compensate my descendants 100 years from now. This is not some sort of indentured servitude thing. They're making false arguments. They're making false equivalences. The reason cash reparations is so important is because that was what the white supremacists committed the greatest crime in human history for. That was the reason that they did it. They did it to build generational wealth for themselves at our expense, and that wealth was measured in cash. And eventually that wealth would be bootstrapped and undergirded by land and the resources within it that it could produce. Nobody else talks this dumb stuff except for some black bootlick Negroes. These black shills, they're the only ones who talk this stupidity. Nobody else does. See, you notice how the black bootlicks, their position dovetails nicely with the anti-reparations crowd. Notice how all of it, you got this closed loop of denial policy. You got this closed loop of refusal. This perfect circle of denial. They can do it either directly or they can do it obliquely. That's how this works. We demand cash because that requires the white supremacists to surrender the very thing that they enslaved us to gain. This is how you balance the scales. But of course, being moral and economic illiterates, these half-wits of the Philadelphia Tribune immediately contradict the very position that they have been warbling about all this time when they attempt to say that what for them would constitute an acceptable form of reparations. Well, gee, can't wait to read this. I mean, they don't want money, because after all, that would be blood money. So what is it that the good folks over these economic heavyweights over at the Philadelphia Tribune, who have accomplished so much, and I'm sure that they're economic geniuses, what for them would constitute an acceptable and morally justified form of reparations that they would accept? What to them is acceptable? They said that they want a vast area of fertile land in the United States where black people can build the Black Wall Street of Tulsa with our own banks, schools, colleges, laboratories, factories, warehouses, farms, supermarkets, department stores, hospitals, etc. That's what they say? Okay, fine. And once you build your black bank, what are you going to put into it? What are you going to deposit into it? Air? Because you've already declared that you don't want cash, so what good does it do you to have a bank? Better yet, how are you going to build your black banks without capital? How are you going to build your black schools and black laboratories and black factories and black farms and black hospitals without capital? That means cash. How do you buy the equipment and supplies for all of these black facilities? That requires cash. How do you keep them going without cash? How are you going to operate them without cash? If all you want is land, then how do you intend to build anything on that land without money? How do you intend to regulate the selling of the land to other black people? If people want to lease the use of your land, say you've got resources underneath it, or it's particularly good for growing crops or what have you, or it happens to be a particularly advantageous economic spot to build a hotel or a factory or a school or whatever, how do you intend to be compensated if not in cash? It's one thing to say cashless, as in we don't carry paper money, but it's another thing to say I don't want any money at all. That also means you don't want generational wealth. Will you accept chickens, goats, and vegetables? Because you think cash is blood money, right? And these Negroes dare to try to present themselves as being serious proponents of reparations. This is what's supposed to qualify as a reparations discourse from the old dead black media. Now you see why these clowns went belly up. And then, after making perfect fools of themselves by denying cash reparations, why we don't want your stinking cash, what do they say that they want on top of these banks and schools and colleges, these buildings? What do they say they want? They want federal tax waivers, that is cash. They want free education across the country. They want cultural museums and libraries in every state, free mental health therapy, and of course, small business startups funding. What do you call small business startups funding? Oh, that's capital. What's another word for capital? Cash. Small business startups funding. What do you call funding? What is funding? Oh, that's cash, isn't it? Okay, so I guess we do want the stinking cash, don't we? See what happens when you listen to it. Yeah, you can tell when some Negro is desperately trying to please a white audience because they go overboard telling white supremacists what they know they want to hear. The white supremacists they know the white supremacists go ballistic when you say it's going to be cash because they know that strikes at the very heart of the matter. So what they say is, no, it won't be cash, We're not going to make you guys feel uncomfortable. We dare not make you feel uncomfortable. So you'll let me be on CNN, right? Don Lemonade's show? Can I at least get a spot, please? Yeah, you can tell when you got some clown who's looking for a white supremacist audience, somebody who's trying to appeal to the dominant society. They talk like complete idiots, and you can smell their garbage a mile away. Now, you notice these clowns, they sound like the four stooges who went before Congress last year, this white media and an assortment of well-wishers and fools who think they sound clever. They're all pushing the same non-cash reparations line. And even for the ones who claim that they want land, notice that they don't just say reparations means land. If these clowns of the Philadelphia Tribune were serious, they should have just said off top, reparations means land. Granted, you ain't going to have the ability to build anything on it. You're going to have no medium of exchange. But at least you're going to have some land. They didn't even do that. Ta-Nehisi Chokes and his pals didn't do that. Nobody demanding anything tangible. Which, of course, is deliberate. This is not about fulfilling reparations. This is about derailing it. They put up a phony baloney pretend conversation about reparations, but it's not a conversation at all. It's a script. Written, produced, and presented to you by the same white supremacists who have been denying you reparations for 400 plus years. Now, of course, if the idiots over at the Philadelphia Tribune or the rest of these black bootlicks looking for a white audience had any sense, first thing that they would be asking is, we know that cash has no intrinsic value. Well, in that case, then, obviously the most obvious question would be, if cash has no intrinsic value, why is it that the white supremacists are not offering that to us then? If cash has no intrinsic value, shouldn't the white supremacists be shoving it at us and saying, hey, take some of our monopoly money here? But they're not. By the way, before I go any farther, I have no problem with land. But land in and of itself is not enough. Sure, we will certainly require land. As Malcolm said, land is the basis of freedom, justice, and equality. And land grants certainly must be part of any reparations proposal. No reparations proposal is serious unless you got the land piece in there. But even without the land piece, you don't have reparations at all without cash. If you are not going to have a land deal be part of it, at the very least, you better believe that the dollar figure, that just went way the hell up. We got a reparations proposal, buddy. But it's going to be all cash, though, no land. Okay, that's fine then. I'm going to go ahead and adjust that dollar figure for what the value of the land would be. See, the thing that these people need to understand, land without cash, it's like an engine without fuel. It may be impressive to look at. It may have enormous potential, but it will ultimately produce nothing for the person who owns it. An engine needs fuel. It needs something to circulate throughout it to make it go. Same thing goes for land. You're going to require some means of exchange for what it is that you're producing. That is, unless you intend to go with that barter system. Now, if you're going to be doing this barter system thing, that's great. Love to know how you're going to have a medium exchange for that. because the same person who might need 3 chickens today won't tomorrow. So family, you need to understand that what we're seeing here with this white media trying to pretend as if, oh, look, there are reparations that have passed. Hell, even if you take them at their word, there's been no reparations. It's been a California bill that's talking. It's not even a law that's been passed. It's just a bill. It is a bill that says maybe we should create a task force. Not even a task force created, just a bill. That's it. And then in North Carolina, you have a city council that's passed a resolution. Nobody actually doing anything. But in both cases, everyone trying to figure out, how do we shoehorn all of these non-black groups into it? Oh, well, if there's going to be reparations for black people, well, this needs to be for all oppressed people. To hell with that. All these other oppressed people, oppressed with the lowercase o. In fact, in many cases, not even oppressed, just mildly inconvenienced. They've already received massive reparations, mostly under the very laws that were meant to protect and benefit us. So no, we ain't talking about everybody else, because everybody else has already gotten theirs. The people who are most deserving and most owed that have not. And that being the case, nobody piggybacks on our tangibles. Nobody gets to piggyback on our reparations. End of. Don't you dare let this white media lie to you and tell you that this is reparations. It is not reparations at all. And they know that. What this is about is attempting to plant a phony idea into the public consciousness. We'll saturation bomb the public with lies that North Carolina's passed a reparations bill. Oh, these black folks. Oh, look, they're finally getting their due. And then what'll happen is people will look up. You'll be looking up a year from now going, why are people telling me that reparations have already been paid? Because the white media lied to them. But it was a lie that most of them already knew. They give a wink and a nod. You better believe these white supremacists and these anti-black racists, they're looking at this and they can see, okay, no tangibles have actually changed hands. Oh, this is going to be more of that minority outreach stuff. Okay, so it's going to be going to some Latinos and some Asians and some white women, and the blacks will be left out. Okay, we'll go ahead and we'll do a little bit of clucking our teeth and tisking, and oh, we're losing everything. We're losing everything. You know, the usual white supremacist caterwauling. As predictable as the tide. But they understand what their part is in this charade. The white media pretends that reparations are being enacted, and the white supremacists will pretend to be outraged and indignant. And in the end, nothing changes. At least that's what they think. Because after all, you got the Philadelphia Tribune and an assortment of other bought and paid for Negroes who are going along with the white supremacist script. But the black media and the black grassroots, we're going to flip the script. We're going to flip the script, rip it to pieces, and burn what's left of it. We're giving this white media political theater thumbs down. We ain't going for this garbage. We know exactly what their lies are. We have already defined and determined what constitutes reparations, and the white media will not redefine it. They're not going to get any, no matter how many of these old, dried up, or young sellouts that they get of any age range. You're not going to be getting any black immigrants or any homegrown sellouts who are going to be saying, why, anything that involves money or land or anything tangible, that is not reparations. Reparations should take the form of hugs. Jonathan Capehart said so. That's not going to work. And all you fools who have been online slamming your gums about how you want land, well, as you can see, the white supremacists, the second that you get off of cash reparations, they know that you've already backed off the most important thing. They know that. So from there, it's child's play for them to say, hey, you ain't getting no land either, because you've already shown that you're too stupid, too naive, too gullible, too idiotic. You're too simple-minded. You think that you're smart, but you're really not. You've already shown them how dumb you are, and that being the case, you've given them the green light to walk all over you. Well, they're going to walk all over you, and they should, but they're not walking on us. Once you've shown weakness in the face of white supremacy, you let them know that you're theirs for the taking. You see, over here, with the black media, we know what we want. And we're not settling for what these racist white politicians and their black bootlick flunkies try to dictate to us. We're not going to let these white supremacists and their black flunkies shoehorn anyone else into what is ours. Everyone else in this country has received huge benefits, legal benefits, social benefits, and economic benefits, and they've all done it using laws that were written to benefit us. We're not going to let this policy of multiracial hangers-on continue any longer. But that is going to depend on us getting in the bastards' faces. The white supremacists have to understand that they're going to be facing maximum resistance on this. What the bad guys understand is this is not going away. The black grassroots have been galvanized, and this ain't going to be like the 60s. Nobody's looking for any hugs, so Jonathan Capehart can go to hell. Ain't nobody looking for no hugs. Nobody's looking to be buddies with anybody. We're not looking for friends. We're not trying to figure out how do we get close to the dominant society. We are interested only in building our own power. We're building our own machine, not trying to figure out how we can continue to power someone else's. And that being the case, they got to figure out how to get us off of this, or at the very least to try to confuse the issue, try to put up some sort of resistance and chaos. Oh, we're going to claim the reparations have already been passed. That'll throw these guys for a loop. It didn't. Yeah, but what we're going to do is we're going to bang the drum and claim that it has, and that's going to shut you guys up. You guys are irresponsible. That means you're disobedient. That's the game that they're trying to play. Well, we're playing the black empowerment game. And rule number 1 of black empowerment is the former slaves always win. That's what it means. We're stacking the deck in our favor. We see what these guys are up to. They're not fooling anyone. This isn't conning anyone. Sure, you'll have some simpletons and idiots who want to believe this for their own purposes. They already know what the reason is to go along with it. Individuals who are looking for some rhetoric or some language, some verbiage, something that they can hang their hat on, so that they can scream and yell the same anti-black racism they've always yelled, something they can hang their hat on to justify, say, oh, you niggers have already gotten reparations. They know that, because what they've seen is that the movement to fight back against all this anti-black violence, there was only 20% or so, a little over a year ago, who were in favor of it. Today it's the majority. They understand that as black people, if we fight, we win. They understand that, and they see that we're fighting them. They see that we're putting up massive resistance. We're fighting them, and we're not letting go, and we're not backing down, and we're not watering down the message, and we're not equivocating, and we're not making excuses, and we're not going for any okey doke. We have laid out exactly what our demands are, and they are not going to redefine those demands or get us to settle for something else or tell us why they can't do it. And they're certainly not going to do what we didn't say and then claim they're all better now. We did our part. Nah, not even. That trick ain't going to work. Go to the A-dunce crowd. Those simpletons, they'll fall for anything. So family, you better understand the con game that's going on here. I told you about this. They would just simply take the same old phony baloney, pretend affirmative action, economic development nonsense that they do every year, the same old garbage. Only now this is going to be, we're going to tell them that this is reparations. See, this is the left-wing version of, buddy, the NBA and the NFL, that's reparations, buddy. Welfare and food stamps, that's reparations. See, the right wing claims that, and they're just being blatantly insulting about it. And the left wing is being low-key insulted. They're being dismissive, which is the exact same thing. Both of them working together for the exact same mission, to make sure that white supremacy maintains the ill-gotten gains of slavery. That's what this is about. So sure, if you want to say that land must be a crucial component of any reparations plan, that's fine, but you make sure you get your money right first. Reparations means one thing and one thing only, and that is cash. Now, if you want to throw some other stuff on top of that, that's fine. You can go ahead and throw some extras on there. I ain't mad about that. But you make sure you get that cash ready first. You're not coming up to me with any phony baloney about banks and all this other pie-in-the-sky nonsense that you can't even get built without having cash ready. It ain't gonna work. This is the reason why all of us must do our part. Jason's already shown that he's doing his part. Tariq, myself, you need to be starting right where you are. How do you fight back against a white media that's trying to saturation bomb people with lies about phony reparations proposals that never were and will never be? What you do is you define exactly what it is that reparations are. You define exactly what constitutes reparations, and it ain't going to be no proposals and no bills. They didn't need any proposals or bills for these Native Americans to give them half of Oklahoma. They didn't need any proposals to be giving Hispanics all these freebies. And nobody would go up to the Jews and say, those museums and such, we're going to have a proposal about it. Nobody would do that. But when it comes to black people, all of a sudden it's, well, with you guys, we need to have a study group and we're going to have a bill. We're not actually going to do it, but we have okayed a bill. So we have passed a bill to talk about whether or not there should be any sort of group to study reparations. Great. We're going to talk about talking about reparations. No, we cannot be allowing that to go on any longer. Everybody else gets to have their tangibles, and what we get is a lot of diversionary talk and talking around the issue and tiptoeing around and, oh, I gotta go. So late, gotta go. No, no longer. It is up to each and every one of us where we are to make sure that our area, where we live, are properly educated about exactly what reparations are. Reparations means cash. People are not going to like it. To hell with what they don't like. We haven't liked our position for 400 years. Time that they got some of what it's like to be us. Oh, they're going to go ahead and whine a little bit in the beginning. The white supremacists are good for whining. That's their stock and trade. But after they get through doing the usual on the ground, kicking and screaming and throwing a temper tantrum, you let them know, okay, you keep doing that, and we're going to keep saying cash. Oh, it'll be offensive to them the first time. Shocking, unprecedented the first time. Then it's going to be displeasing the third or fourth time. By the 10th or 12th time we've hit them over the head with it, they're going to be saying, well, needs to be minorities and some Native Americans and some white women in there. And when we hit them over the head the 15th or 16th time, then it's going to be, well, we don't know if it should be a check. Okay, maybe something just for you guys, but why is it got to be a check, We push on these bastards. They will give, but we have to show the resolve. And we also have to show that we see all these scumbags out here who think that they're going to be changing the issue, changing the subject, and redefining it. We have to show them we see them and that they will change nothing at all. The white media thinks they're going to dominate this conversation. They will not. All these fools out here trying to say that reparations doesn't have to be cash. The hell it doesn't. It must be cash. Of a necessity, it must be cash. You're sitting here talking about we need to be holding hands, hold nothing. I need to be holding the bag. That's the only thing I need to be holding. The black media says what constitutes reparations. We have earned that right because we speak for the streets. We're the only ones who speak for this black street. And that being the case, we get to say what reparations are and no one else. Simply put, unless we say it's reparations, then it is not reparations. No white writer, no white media outlet, and no black bootlick gets to say otherwise.